Years ago, there was this YouTuber that made a report on another YouTuber. I did not know that other YouTuber directly, okay? But the YouTuber that the report was about was a guy that promoted homosexuality online. Now, this is years ago, before this transgender mania on YouTube, before homosexuality was approved by the Supreme Court in the United States in 2015. This was years ago. There was this guy going online talking about his gay lifestyle and how great it was to be gay. He had thousands of subscribers. He had many views. Then suddenly one day, the guy vanished from YouTube. Then he came back online. His videos were still there. And he claimed that he couldn't stand homosexuality and all of that. And people pointed out to him, but look at these videos. Here we see you promote homosexuality. You were so fanatic in it. And he said that never happened. It never happened. You guys are mistaken. So this YouTuber, which I knew that made a report on the event, told his viewers, if this guy is capable of persisting that this reality didn't take place, something that obviously happened, that there is evidence for that happened, and they keep denying that it happened, then what else can he deny that didn't happen? What else can he do and later claim it didn't happen? And the guy asked us to pray for that individual. Well, as far as I could see, that individual that was gaslighting the public on YouTube was a pagan, obviously, and he was using gaslighting in a way to cause confusion in his viewers. But I wanted to use this parable. It happened. It's something that historically happened, but I'm using it as a parable now. And I'm asking you the following. Would you trust a harlot? I'm going to ask again. Would you trust a slut? Would you? Now, if you ask most men this, probably they will say no. Some would say, well, I would trust her to have my way with her for a moment, but I wouldn't want her as a long-term partner. I wouldn't trust her. Women would say, well, I wouldn't want her as a friend because she may sleep with my husband or my boyfriend or whatever. Or she may cause all kinds of trouble through gossiping and all of that. Now, why am I asking this question, would you trust a slut? And what does this have to do with the example I gave before of that pagan that was gaslighting people on YouTube by first promoting sodomy and then pretending it didn't happen? Okay, here's where I'm going with this. Hold on. Be patient. I'm going to give a parable now. A crime happened. A man has been stabbed 55 times. By the way, 2 times a 5 is 10. 10 is an X in Roman numerals. An X is an abbreviation of Helios, which refers to Apollo. So a guy has been stabbed to death. A ritual. The police come, shuts down the area. Forensics come, they do their thing. Then the detective of the case wants to have some suspects. And he tells the police officers, go and arrest the wife and the brother of the victim. Then one of the officers asks, sir, why the brother? The brother just came back from holiday 2 days ago. And this body has been here for almost a week. So he wasn't in the country when it happened. The detective says, get the brother and the wife now. So they do it. Well, they interrogate both of them. And they figured out that the brother of the victim had nothing to do with it. His alibi was clear. He was out of the country. And he had no contact with people in the country for 5 weeks. He was traveling. He was traveling through Asia. He was backpacking. And the police officer who questioned the detective said, you see, I told you so. Why do we waste precious time interrogating the brother when he had nothing to do with it? But then the detective said to him, hold up. You understand what I'm doing here. Then interrogated the wife. And the wife revealed all kinds of dirty secrets about that brother about her brother-in-law. that he used to scam people, that he committed fraud on insurance money. So she released a lot of things about the guy. And the police officers investigated and found out it was true. But the detective told them, we don't bother with all of that. That fraud and all that swindling is not important now. Then the police officers tell him, sir, you first tell us to interrogate the brother, while the officer nothing to do with the crime. We interrogate the wife reveals all kinds of stuff, criminal stuff about the brother-in-law. And now he tells us not to do anything with it. What if all that swindling has to do with the crime that happened? The detective told them, hold up, interrogate the wife again. But this time, also interrogate her friends. So they do it. And that same police officer that was questioning the detective because he couldn't make sense of what they were doing, then figured out what his superior was really doing. Then he understood it. When he interrogated the friends of that wife, the wife of the victim, he found out that that wife was having affairs. She was sleeping around here and there around town. But at the same time, she was spreading all kinds of rumors about her brother-in-law, revealing all the crimes he was committing. He was swindling insurance money and all of that. And that was true, by the way, and a lot of people knew it. But then the police officer understood. The wife was spreading rumors about her brother-in-law and was revealing his dark secrets in order to have a cover for what she was doing. And then the police officer found out that one of her lovers was an ex-boyfriend from college that was obsessed with her but couldn't let her go. And she kept this guy on the line, and lately she had sex with the guy, and she complained to the guy about her husband and her brother-in-law, and the guy told her he would take care of it. Now, that is what happened. Okay? That's why the detective told them you're going to interrogate the brother of the victim first, then the wife, and then the wife again, and then the friends. This is what the detective understood. Invested interests. Repeat it after me. Invested interests. Okay, what does invested interest has to do with what I explained in the beginning about a pagan that gaslighted the YouTube public by first promoting sodomy and then denying it ever happened? What does it have to do with whether you would trust a slut or not? Or what does this have to do with the crime that happened? What these three things have to do with one another? Invested interests. Well, once you understand this term, invested interest, you'll be able to see through a lot of stuff. Look, detectives and forensics, when they are doing their police investigations, they follow the guidelines that their teachers taught them, and their teachers are pagan. I'm not saying those police officers or investigators are pagan, some are, but those that make those books to teach them are pagan, and pagans know how fallen mankind operates. They know it. They know it very well. And they understand invested interest. I'm not going to call it the principle of invested interest because it will sound religious then, but okay, you can call it like that, but I'm just calling it invested interest. Invested interest comes down to the following. People hide their investments, their emotional investments, by pointing a finger at someone else. Because by pointing a finger at someone else, they will draw negative attention to their target. And while the target receives the negative attention, their interest they want to cover is safe. It is as if they robbed 1 million euros from someone and they have it in their basement. But they're so anxious people are going to find out there's something in their basement. So they begin to let's say they start a fire somewhere in a warehouse. So everyone now is looking at the warehouse. Someone started fire over there. Everyone's asking, who's the criminal who did this? And because everyone's so focused on the warehouse now, nobody is going to even going to think. Neither is it going to come up in anyone's mind there is someone with 1 million euros living amongst them. That's how it kind of is. In the third parable I gave unto you, the wife had an invested interest. Her invested interest was she didn't want to face herself. She herself came from an unstable emotional environment, but she never wanted to face herself. So she began to use her sexuality to get relief. Now, that worked for her. In her late teens, in her early 20s, but after her early 20s, she had enough of it and she wanted to settle. That's how she met her husband. But she found out that she couldn't cover up her emotional issues any longer. And not only that, she developed a lot of baggage by her relief seeking past years. So she could either face herself and seek for the remedy, but that would take a lot of effort, or she could pour it all on, or she could project it on her husband and quarrel with her husband. Now, that would cause a lot of trouble, so she didn't want to do that either. She enjoyed being the married wife in the community. So what did she do? She found out that her brother-in-law was committing fraud here and there. So she befriended her brother-in-law to find out about his activities. And later she began to talk a lot about his activities. Meanwhile, she could keep sleeping around like she used to, without her husband finding out, without anyone else noticing it. And why was she doing that? So she wouldn't have to face herself. That avoidance that she had was her invested interest that she was protecting. And it's her holding on to this invested interest that brought harm onto her husband, which led to his death. You get what I'm saying here? That's how it often goes in crimes. There's an invested interest somewhere. Often people think it has to do with money. Now, of course, in the drug world, in the criminal world, there are rituals being done in which a debtor is killed to cleanse a debt. Such things happen. But most of the time, when crime happens, I'm talking about real crime. I'm talking about incidents. I'm not talking about those rituals that the shadow government is conducting. I'm talking about real incidents here. Most incidents are related to invested interest, often of a sexual or romantic kind. I'm telling you as it is. But why am I talking about invested interest? Because this is what most people don't understand. They don't understand this about worldly people. Worldly people often don't understand this of their own worldly people. When something bad happens, they follow the rules to find out who it is, instead of looking at the bigger picture. Then they could see things more clearly. Look, haven't you noticed, some of you may have experienced this, that people who often don't like you, who can't stand you, always have some bad blood towards you. That if you would look beyond and look into their affairs, that they have things that don't add up, that if those things would come out, they would have to give an account they can't give. Now you know why they can't stand you. They are distracting themselves by projecting their anxieties onto you and bringing the danger onto you. That is what they're doing. They have an invested interest. Don't you know that some people will endanger you, endanger your life, the life of your kids? They will endanger your business, your career, and whatever belongs to you, just so that they can protect their invested interests? Hello, come on. Such things happen. That's why Christ said, "Be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." He said, "I sent you as sheep amongst wolves." Now that is what wolves do. They have their invested interest, and to protect it, they will pretend to be a sheep while they're devouring you. They will devour you just for the sake to defend their invested interest. And their invested interest doesn't even have to be something that shameful, like a wife cheating with multiple men. It can be that they just want validation from, someone wants validation from their parents. And they can't face the fact that they can't match their parents' expectations. So in order not to see this, they transfer this anxiety onto someone at work. And they begin to sabotage someone at work, to cause someone to get fired. Such things happen. And look at this. Detectives, inspectors, those that conduct police investigations, they understand this principle of invested interests. That's why they don't come with false conclusions. People out there tend to use logic in a wrong manner. That's why they end up lynching people, often people that have nothing to do with the case. I'm telling you, once you understand invested interests, you'll see through a lot of stuff. And I'm telling you, some of you who are listening to this, the reason why you endured so much trouble is because people don't want to admit reality. Some of you came from households where the father was an alcoholic or a drug user and he used to beat you and threaten you and endanger you. The wife, in this case your mother, remained with the guy because she had an invested interest. But the community allowed it to happen because the community didn't want to address the guy. Because then they need to also address why they didn't address all those other drunkards. The community knew that if they dealt with the guy and the guy would be put behind bars, they now have to take care of the family. And here's the thing. The community also knew that the wife, in this case your mother, was out of her mind, that she would gaslight them and all of that, so the community didn't want to put up with her narcissism either. So the community, to remain relief, they allowed it to happen. But meanwhile, the community also allowed drug dealers to come by and offer you drugs and all of that, just so that they could later blame it all on you, that you were the dysfunctional families in the community. But here's the thing, you can't have a well-functioning community and only one dysfunctional family within that community. If there's one out of control family within a community, that it is because the community allows it to be so. You can't have 25 households in order in one community and one of them is completely out of order and it remains like this for a long time. That cannot be. There is an invested interest of the rest of the community in keeping it like that. And here's the thing, the fact there's one household completely out of line within a community that's so-called correct, that is because that household is completely out of line, is put to the front to cover the invested interest of those other households, so that nobody would pay attention to them. Look, I understand fully why pagans don't trust common people. And listen to me, I'm not talking down on common people. There are common people that are quite empathic, they do charity work, they become firefighters, they are common people with honorable qualities. They're loving, they're kind, they do their best for the children, all of that. So there are people, common people out there that are recommendable, okay? But I'm talking about common people in general here. Common people in general, as mentioned for the other relief seekers, when it comes down to it, you can't really rely on them. You can't really rely upon them. And pagans understand this. They understand this very well because they understand very well how invested interests work. I understand fully why pagans don't trust common people. And to be frank, if I look at the bigger picture and see how common people are in general, I'm not talking in the absolute sense, but in general, I don't get motivated to trust them either. Because I'm telling you, common people, when it comes to their invested interests, they'll endanger you, your life, your health, and the life and health of those around you. They'll endanger it just so that they don't have to face themselves, so that they can remain with their relief. That is what common people do. I'm not saying absolutely all of them. As I mentioned before, there are recommendable common people. Those exist. And if they would become born again, well, they would be very powerful believers. But common people in general, you can't rely upon them. You can't. And that's why pagans in their businesses, in their companies, are so successful. I know they use paranormal aid. I know that. But it's not just paranormal aid. Even if they receive paranormal aid, they need to be practical for the empowerments to work. And they're practical. They don't allow common people into their enterprise. Pagans do not allow common people in their enterprise. Only other pagans, just like them, can join their enterprise and share in its stocks and share in its operations. That's why those pagan businessmen succeed. Often, common people out here who are naive, when they want to start a business or they want to start an enterprise, they expect family and friends to support them. That's where they go wrong, because they think friends and family give them warm feelings, they will support them, while often they find out that's not the case. Or they look for friends or people like-minded who also have ideas. Pagans don't do that. Pagans, when they want to start an enterprise, they look around, evaluate how people are, and once they figure out those people can't be relied upon, they don't rely upon them. And they do their thing quietly, both the paranormal activities with candles, with spells and all of that, and they operate physically to get their things done. And once the things succeed, they will look for people just like them, pagans, to collaborate with. They don't collaborate with common people. They will associate with common people. They may go to parties with common people, go to the supermarket with common people. They may even attend church with common people, but they do not bond nor get yoked with common people. Now listen to what I'm saying here. The New Testament tells us not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Now pagans were unbelievers. They're not the common unbelievers. They are pagans. But the pagans themselves don't want to be yoked with common unbelievers. They don't. Pagans rather be involved with believers than with common unbelievers. But of course, there's a conflict. They don't have the Holy Spirit. They are in the negative. So when they do want believers around, it's going to clash. But that's their problem, not the problem of the believer. Nevertheless, pagans in general don't want to be yoked with common unbelievers. They don't. They want to be yoked with other pagans, or they want some believers around. But those pagans don't understand that for them to be connected to believers implies that there's danger for them because they are in the negative. But they can't see this, but okay. I hope this video has opened your eyes. And think about this. If even pagans who are unbelievers don't want to be yoked with common unbelievers, then why is it that believers still think they can be yoked together with common unbelievers and think this is going to be well? If even their own pagan unbelievers don't want to be yoked with them, common unbelievers, and why do you believers want to be yoked with common unbelievers? Come on. You know, pagans are quite shocked by pagan Christianity. Because those pagans see people who claim to follow Christ embracing, pampering, and supporting common unbelievers. While the pagans think, hold on a minute, don't those believers or those that claim to be believers, don't they understand how dangerous and risky it is to be yoked with common unbelievers? Even us, unbelievers, who are pagans, don't want to be yoked with such people. But why are they doing it? I'm telling you, open your eyes. There is this YouTuber that said that she used to have a mothering attitude towards many people, caring for a lot of people, and she did it too much, and that may have led to her being vulnerable to predators. Now look, there's nothing wrong with a woman wanting to have a caring attitude towards others. That's natural. However, she should have a Christ-centered way of thinking. Pagan Christians would tell you, yes, that's good. Walk in love, walk in love. The pagan would tell you, look, the pagan Christians tell you to walk in love, I tell you to be alert. There's nothing wrong with you having caring attitude towards others, lady, but please, some folks are dangerous. As long as you are alert, I'm fine with it. That's what the pagan would tell you. But pagan Christians, well, man, pagan Christians will bring you in danger if you follow them. But okay, about me, I understand invested interests. I understood it at a very young age. And that's why I'm telling you, keep your eyes open. Okay? Listen, if even the pagans who are the practical ones in the world, because pagans are really the ones that are really practical and realistic in the world. If even those pagans who are of the world don't want to be yoked with the commoners of the world, why are you as a believer seeking to be yoked with them? Come on. Come on. Use your mind that Christ gave unto you. Well, that's it for now. Agree with Christ and be at peace.